For this tutorial, we're going to go through the first steps of setting up your Maya MasterScene to prepare for individual shots and scenes to be animated. The first thing you want to make sure to do is to see if you are set to the right project. Go to File, Project, Set, and this will take you to your Projects folder, and make sure that you are set to the right project, which in this case is Project X. The next thing to do is you're going to create a camera. This will be your renderable camera. So you go to Create, Camera, and just pick the top camera setting. Rename the camera Render Cam. Again, this is going to be the renderable camera for all of your shots that you're going to render out from now on. I'm going to go to one of my panels here. I'm going to pick the top panel over here on the left, and I'm going to change this view to Panel Perspective Render Cam. What this does is this gives me the view of my camera. If I move my camera in the perspective setting here, my camera shape here, you can see that it moves the scene here. This is what's going to be your stage of your animation. Another thing you're going to want to do with your camera settings is to go into the Render Cam viewport, go to View, Camera Settings, and set the resolution gate. This will block off what the aspect ratio and what is exactly going to be rendered in the scene. You may also go to Camera Settings, Safe Action, and this gives you a little bit of room to see where you have the edge of the frame is and where the extreme edge of the frame is. The next thing you're going to want to do is go to your render settings. Go to Window, Rendering Editors, Render Settings. This will bring up your render settings window. This will set all of your settings to make sure that your renders come out correctly and in the size and format that you want. We're going to keep it at Maya Software. Under these section here is going to show you the path where your renders are going to go. If you had set your project correctly, it should go to Projects, the name of your project, and the Images folder within that Projects file. If you were to scroll down, we're going to go to File, Output, and we're going to change the image format, scrolling down to Targa. TGA. We're going to make Targa files for here. That is a good format to render at. Under File Name Prefix, we're going to start here, and we're just going to give it just a beginning file name. Call it Collective and underscore. Each individual animated shot that you're going to do is going to be starting with Collective, and then you're going to give it a specific name or number here. Going down here, you're going to want to give Frame Animation Extension. This is going to make sure that the renders are going to be done in the right order. Scroll down to Name, Number, and Extension, and give it a frame padding of 3. If you look up here, it'll give you the information of what your render file naming convention is going to be. In this case, it's going to be collective underscore dot 001 2 dot 00010. What the 010 is your frame range. Now each individual shot is going to have a different frame range, and you can change that from shot to shot. And when you begin to render your scene, you're going to be changing the end frame. Scrolling down, we're going to go to Renderable Cameras. We're going to make that the render cam that we just created. All of your renders are going to be generated from the render cam window here. Now we're going to change the image size. Maya defaults to an aspect ratio of 640 by 480. And we're going to change that. That's a little small for what we want. And we're going to make it a custom size of 720 by 540. Notice that the aspect ratio and size changes here in the render cam viewport. and it is an aspect ratio which is 1.33. You can change this to a HT format if you want, but that'll make a bigger file and a lot more rendering time. So we're going to keep it at a 720 by 540. Now all of your render settings are set. This would be a good time to save your scene. Save scene. It'll go into your project, Project X Scenes, and we want to call that collective underscore start underscore 01. This will be the start scene, so whenever we set up a scene, we're going to use that start file and then change the name as we build the scene. Let's build a scene very quickly here. I have some assets all ready to go, and we're going to start by importing them in. Go to File, Import, and this will bring us to the Scenes file, and I've already put some folders in here: Characters, Environments, and Props. These have already been modeled or already been brought into the project folder. Let's start with Environments, and I'm going to bring in the Collective Room 02, which is the second version of a room that I built. If I press the number 6, you can see that I have a simple geometric room here, which is basically going to be meant as a stand-in, but will give us enough information so we can start our scene, and then we can start to prop it out as we go. If we go into our render view, our render cam view, press the number 6, here we can start to position our camera according to the scene. And if we move the camera into perspective, we can see it start to be composed in our scene here. Now we're going to want to bring in some props and some characters. So we go to File, Import, and let's bring in our main character. I'm going to scroll back to the Characters folder and bring in RimCAD Man. Now he's going to come in really big because his scale was built differently than I built this set here. But that's not a problem, and all we need to do is either scale the set up, or in this case I'm going to scale the character down to the size of our set here. And then I can start to position him in the scene, like so. And I'm going to put him in the scene here, and you can see that I have him roughly positioned in the scene. You can also start to put some of your props and some of your set pieces in a layer folder down here underneath your channel box. And as you can see, I've already set up some layers here, and this is a good way to either make some elements disappear, or you can reference them so you can't select them. For if I had this unselected, I would be always selecting the room instead of the character. So if I reference the room, I can now select the character, control curves, and not be distracted by always selecting other props and objects in the scene. I'm going to scale him to about there and then move him in. Now I'm going to bring in a prop. I'm going to go into File, Import, and I'm going to navigate back to the Props folder and bring in a simple chair. Everything is going to come in at the default in the center, so you're going to need to select the chair and move it around as needed. You can also turn off if some elements start to come in and this is the texture node for the chair, and it's going to be kind of distracting. I can go into in each viewport, go Show, and I'm going to turn off everything but show just the NURB curves, the polygons, and I'm also going to show the camera cameras here. I'm also going to do the same over here. In this viewport here, NURB curves, those are our selection curves, polygon, and I want to show the camera. I'm also going to show some NURB surfaces. If you notice, my little window back here is a NURB surface that I have texture map a matte painting on, so I'm going to need to position that outside matte painting. This is very much like what they do in the movies. A lot of time in studios they just have a painting or a picture in the background instead of like a real set or a real city, and it's a very effective way to get an outside look. Here, I'm going to bring this down a little bit like that. Now what we're going to want to do is maybe position our character, and I'm going to go into my perspective mode here, zoom a little bit, and I'm just going to start to pose my character in a natural looking pose. And I just start that by just starting with his body. Oops, I keep selecting the wrong curve here. And then I'm going to bring his arms down to his sides here. I'm also going to take the chair, and I'm going to move the chair into position here and start to put it in a good position there. And now I'm going to start to position his hand very roughly at first. I can fine-tune this later. I'm just going to try to get the general gist. And then over here I'm going to change his arm IK to FK, and that's going to be his right arm, and I'm going to change that to 0. So now this arm is going to be forward kinematics, while this one is inverse kinematics. The reason why I'm doing that is because if I were to move his body, this arm is going to stay with the chair, which I'm going to position later to rest on the chair, while this arm will move with his body. And I'm going to roughly position his arms in a natural looking position here using his FK controllers, grabbing his hand controllers here, giving his hand kind of a natural looking kind of curvature here. I'll also do a little bit here with this hand. Going to curve his fingers a little bit, and then I'm going to position his arm, his hand, into a natural looking position here, and then position his head like so. Now if we go to our camera view and we look, we can adjust our camera a little bit, and I'm just going to turn off the show NURB curves, maybe adjust this a little bit, and we have just set up our scene ready to be animated.